dial 7018.
Medina Creative Housing, Diane speaking.
Hi, Diane. My name is Richard Goffman, and I live in Pepper Pike. Do you have just a minute that I can ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
I know that we had put on the presentation for the property that was next to my house, and my understanding is that there's going to be another presentation to the city next Monday.
I believe so, yes. I think we're on the agenda, yes.
Okay. I had talked to the mayor, and I'm not sure, were you aware of the agreement that the nuns had with the city to put that land into conservancy?
You know, I'm not aware of what discussions they had with the city. We have not been involved with their discussions with the city.
Okay, because my understanding was that the land that was up against Cedar was the land that the mayor had advised for zoning that your company pursue. And I'm not sure where along the lines that changed.
That was never something that was discussed with the city. We've discussed with the city other property, but we were referred to the sisters by the city, and that's when we pursued a partnership with the sisters.
Because the mayor was
the land is never changed. And again, the conservatory land, I believe, is farther, and I'm not sure of the exact direction.
No, that's not what happened.
But
I mean, everything's on the records. I've spent hours going back and looking through all the records, and it's all there. I'm just curious why there's no, you know what I mean, just kind of to keep with the plan. I'm not sure what changed, and it's real difficult for us. I've spent all weekend walking around door to door and talking to all the neighbors to make sure that they're at the meeting. I would really love to see that the plan go through and that your company can develop the land that was supposed to be developed. I'm just not sure where the switch came from, and I don't want to waste.
Well, there was never a switch. I don't want to there was never a switch with Medina Creative Housing, ever.
Okay.
And the sisters.
Yeah,
our agreement has always been for that parcel, which was closest to the sisters, because again, the sisters are kind of embracing this, well, not kind of, they are embracing this as their part of their mission and assisting a very vulnerable, disadvantaged
and that's
population.
Okay. Yeah, I get all that, and I support that too, but it just wasn't supposed to be on this parcel, and they had known that, and the mayor had told me that he told you this same thing, that when you had started the Outlook, that it was talking about the land on Cedar, and so I'm just curious where that disconnect came on why the mayor's telling me one thing and you're saying something else.
Well, I can assure you, until we talk to the sisters, and this has been a process over years.
Yeah. No, I understand
because they've been thinking about the balance
I've been
of
involved there for years too.
Correct, right. As a neighbor, absolutely, because obviously they tore down the mother house, they built the new mother house. So again, we've always, and again, the mayor, when he referred us, there was no. He'd never talked about a particular parcel on their property. That was something that had to be discussed with the sisters themselves.
Okay. Would you be open to exploring the other parcels?
Well, the problem with the other parcels is that, and again, I'm not familiar with the entire topography of the property as it goes further into the college and closer to Cedar. I'm not familiar with that because, again, we've never talked about that. We've never looked at it. It's never been something that we were, even privy to. So it's all discussions with the city and with the sisters, and I assume with whomever else the sisters discussed it with. But we've only ever been, again, in the parcel that has been designated and that we've leased from the sisters.
Okay, yeah, because the zoning doesn't even allow anything there. So it's just.
Well, the zoning doesn't allow any Medina, would not allow any Medina Creative Housing because of, the size of our units, which again, our residents don't need a large unit, a large home to maintain. They want to live independently with supports and be good neighbors and be integrated into the community. So again, anywhere we would go in Pepper Pike, it wouldn't fit in any zoning. So of course, we have to have a variance.
Well, it's not a variance. It would have to go to a vote for the city because that's the law in Pepper Pike.
Well, again, this is a continuation of the sisters. They took down I think it was 150,000 square foot building.
Yes, and
that's it was
where
all
the
residential.
Development was supposed to go.
And it was all residential. And again, it's being replaced with the residential.
Yeah, in a different location. Yeah, so.
Well, behind the sisters,
Yes.
which is again
land that
part
was,
of part.
No. I don't want you to be in shock on Monday when we start
Well,
going over this. I would support
again.
the
There's things
development
that we can do. There's things that we can do to work together here to make this happen, and that won't impinge upon the neighbors. And again, I would hope that we could, sit down and work that out. With landscaping, we're not a 5-6-story building.
But they are. Their building ends up being about 7 stories about high because they have 15-foot floors, and they're on a hill that's 25 feet over the neighborhood. They end up at 70 feet over the neighborhood. That's equivalent to a 7-story building.
I understand.
And so it's not your property,
absolutely.
but it's their property that they. I'm not blaming you, but it's their property that they came in and they promised the neighbors that they would not leave that land. That land where your building is supposed to be woods. I mean, it's all written, it's all recorded, and it's all there. And so that's why I would love to see your development go in where the mother house was, to the north of them, but not to the west of them. And so I'm just telling you that's going to be what I'm going to be pushing for in the meeting. I've talked to all the neighbors. They are under the same impression that they would love to see your development go in to the, like I said, to the north of the building where the old mother house. I mean, I talked to one lady that lives directly behind that building that got torn down, the old building, and she said, yeah, she would love to see it built, the housing built in that same property. But unfortunately, that's not what's under pursuit right now. And that was always the plan with the sisters, to build something there that can, benefit either people with disabilities or 65 and over. I'm not sure exactly, I don't know that there was a plan for exactly your company going in there or any company going in there, but that was always the plan, that something would replace their old building. And now it's kind of like a giant switch. And it's not that I'm bothered about a single-story building, it's that there's a 7-story building looming behind it, and you rip out those woods, they're never coming back in my lifetime. And I'm 35, and I've been there, and I grew up in the community, and I plan on living, hopefully another 60 years in the community, or whatever I can live out. But, the whole community, unfortunately, has already been in agreement that that land was never supposed to be developed, and I would support you switching to one of the other parcels or one of the other pieces that are kind of tucked back and available, but I don't think that there's going to be any support for this development from the community, as is on that block in the woods and tearing out all those woods.
Well,
So-
again, we would leave a buffer, a significant buffer, because we want that as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you've
again,
seen the
because of
pictures
the
of what that
population
looks
that we
like.
serve.
I don't know
Yeah,
if you've seen what it looks like. It glows up my
Yeah.
entire house right now. And if you took out half those woods, it's not getting any better. I mean, and
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
I don't
first
know if
part
you've
of what
seen
you
how
said.
it looks now. But even if you took
Yeah.
out half those woods, I mean, it's still, I mean, those woods were purposely left there for that exact purpose. I mean, we went through, the city went through a process of people coming out and taking a look and seeing the different angles, and that the new mother height was significantly higher than the old house and up on a hill.
Yeah,
And they
that's-
took that all into
yeah.
account when they built that mother house. I mean, they took that all into account. And for them to come back now and say, oh, well, you know, we already built it, so we're going to go back on our promises. You should have seen the nuns were happy that they were saying, oh, all the windows of their building look out towards my property. And the reason that they do that is so that they can enjoy the nature. I'm not making that up. That's what the architect said to everybody. It's on record. They like looking out those windows. They got Christmas lights in their windows. I can see them from my house. They love looking out at the nature. And to come back a year after it's built and say, you know, I know that's what we said, but we didn't really mean it. We just needed to get our building built, and now we're gonna, you know, see what we can get away with. I don't know whose mission that is. I don't know where that falls into the grand scheme of anything. And it doesn't make sense, and I don't think that the mayor thinks it makes sense. And I've talked to every single person on council and the law director and everyone under the sun, and I don't know that there's anybody in agreement that your development should go there. I think everyone is in agreement that it should go to the property to the north. And so I would ask.
And the north is where the old mother house is?
Yes,
was?
yes.
Is that's the north? Okay.
Yes, I know how
Again,
things go in Pepper Pike, and with the last elections that just went around, and how, if you ever drove through Pepper Pike and you saw how many vote no to rezone signs there were for the last rezoning, it's tough, and I don't want to waste your time and my time and go into a lengthy voting battle, because I truly don't believe that you'd win in the end for that lot. But that's, you know, you can contest that. I understand.
Have you, Mr. Kaufman, have you talked to the sisters?
I have. I've talked to, so I talked to Sister Durkin, who's the old sister, and I talked to Sister Rita Welsh. Yes, and
was that recently, or was
yeah,
that
was
that
well,
prior
that was last
to
month.
our?
That was a couple.
Last
No, that
month.
was after. That was after. I mean, I've talked to them before,
After the
but
Zoom
this
meeting?
was after the Zoom meeting. I talked to them in January after the
Well,
Zoom meeting.
I was, having not been, part of the mother house building, and in that Zoom meeting, I was very surprised at how much, neighborhood kind of issues that they had with the mother house. I was not aware of that. Because we're working with the sisters on this small piece with Medina Creative Housing for individuals with disabilities, so that families who have children with disabilities in the community can continue to have them live in the community and obviously have a plan for them for the future. So I wasn't aware of any of the issues that the neighbors had, and so that all came as kind of a surprise to me in the Zoom meeting. But again, I don't know what was discussed with the city. We're kind of after I don't think it's after the fact, but again, we weren't part of any of discussions with neighbors or with the city regarding their entire parcel, or their mother house.
Yeah, understood.
We're trying to fit in with the sisters, because it's a very good. Obviously, we have a lot of synergy, and we're hoping that the neighbors will kind of embrace us as well. So, you're telling me that that's not going to happen,
I'm
right?
telling you that that's not going to happen
On that parcel.
And like I said,
Okay.
there's.
Well, I appreciate your frankness. I do. I appreciate you.
I mean, there was
calling
people on
me
the call that I think were kind of more rude than I am. I'm the next door neighbor. There were some people that were just. I don't like shutting stuff down just to shut stuff down. That's not my MO in this. But this is kind of what was promised under that development. That was the agreement with the sisters. And to come back a year after is just really disheartening to everybody who worked hard for years, like you said, to make sure that their project was successful and that they had a place, and they've said straight up that, in 20 years, unfortunately, it'll be an apartment building. And they're just not sustaining it with new nuns. And that might be true, it might not be, but at that point, it's too late to say, well, it's not zoned for apartments, it's zoned for institutional, which the nuns, you know what I mean? It will be too late.
Yeah, and, I think in that regard, I think that Medina Creative can be very helpful with use of that building, so that, again, as the sisters don't need use of all the building or a portion of the building or whatever in the future, I think that we can, fill that gap. And so again, it will be, not something unknown or an unknown organization. We very much support all the individuals in our housing, and so, again, we're going to be the neighbors that you want. We're not the ones having the loud parties. We're not the ones that are going to, in any way impinge upon you. And you could talk to anyone where we have housing, and that is, in fact, the case. And they're very happy to have us as neighbors. And so I think that that's kind of should give some comfort. Now, I'm not talking about the location. I'm just talking about their building. We can't change that the building was built, but hopefully going forward, maybe when that does become an issue, Medina Creative Housing can step in to fill that, and everyone's comfortable with that, and the neighbors know us, and they know who we serve, and that would be my, goal,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that, that we have support for that. So I don't know how you feel about that, and I'm not talking about the location of where our development is on the.
Yeah,
but,
actually,
if you're worried about that mother house,
I think that would be great if there was somebody to come in like that and manage the building like that in the future. I personally think that would be great, again, for the apartment building, but not for the parcel that we're talking about now.
I understand. It's separate and distinct. I understand for you.
And I would, again, maybe, I don't know. That's all I'm going to be recommending next week, or would recommend to you anyways. Well,
I really appreciate you calling and talking to me about it, and and I appreciate the
and I don't want to be
communication.
disheartening that anybody is against your mission or what your organization does. It's just that parcel is the wrong parcel. From a multi-year planning. And
can you tell me what Sister Rita Mary told you when you expressed that to her?
Honestly, I know that she knows that. Honestly, I know that she knows that.
Okay.
What she said was, well, I'm the new president. You've probably talked to Sister Durkin in the past. I don't necessarily have all of her notes. I would have to go back through and look all my notes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I wasn't born yesterday.
Okay.
I know what that means. That means that I probably caught you off guard, and you'd have to look through everything to verify that there's some kind of out, contractual out or whatever you want to call it. But I talked
So
to
I
all
can
the
tell
neighbors.
you, Mr. Kaufman. Okay.
I talked to all the neighbors
Oh,
yesterday, and everyone was on the same understanding. Everyone was on the same, you know what I mean? I don't know where she would have to check notes from.
okay. Well, I can tell you that I will have a very frank conversation, with the sisters. Again, relaying your concerns, relaying my concerns that, again, we don't want to go into any community where we're not going to be, if not embraced, at least, tolerated in a positive and constructive way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree
And
with that.
that's not good for the people that we serve. They have enough challenges that's a terrible way to start out their new life and relationships. So again, for us, that parcel isn't the end all as far as the property. But again, they have a plan, and this is where they, contracted with us on. So again, not having any background information, not being a part of anything. Literally, the Zoom meeting was the first indication that I ever had there was any issues with the parcel, with the mother house.
Yeah,
and
and like I said, I
I
would
will
love to
have a
see
frank-
your development go in north of their mother house. I think that everyone in the community would be supportive of that. So I just don't want you to take it personally that
Oh, I appreciate that.
that
You know what? I appreciate the communication. I really do, and your frank communication. I mean, you're not sugarcoating it, and I appreciate that. And what I can do is I can have a very frank conversation with Sister Rita Mary and leadership there, and express the concerns. And again, I don't know if there are any other options.
I believe that
I don't.
I believe that there are. I believe that I don't know what they're doing with the old Mother House location. I think they have somebody that's investigating leasing that land from them.
Right.
I don't know
Yes.
what the status of that is. Then to the north of that, there's another large plot of land. And that was also kind of
Isn't that where they were going to do the conservatory, or not conservatory?
the same conservation that was supposed to be
Conservation.
meant for this
Right.
little strip. But I think
Right.
that if you were kind of on the fringe of that area is 9 acres, and I think that there's a way that you can orientate. So if you had a development in there, that you would still have the woods shielding your development from the neighbors. You know what I mean? Like if you were at the
Oh, I do.
edge
Sure.
of that, I know that I know some of the people that actually live on those side streets too. I think that they would be okay if it was done, because they're concerned that if this land wasn't conserved, why would we expect that the land to the north be conserved anyways? Right? You'd wait 2 more years, and I spoke with the Western Land Conservancy. They have not been engaged with the sisters for about 2 years now. They came out and they did a big plan of how they were going to help the sisters get a grant for conservation, and all of a sudden the sisters cut that all off. So again, there's no active pursuit of that. I got a letter from them stating that. I was careful with that because Tom Chima, who's helping the sisters, he's a board member, and they don't want to throw board members under the bus and say, well, that's not actually true. You know what I mean? So they're dancing
Sure.
around it, but I have a statement that they haven't been actively involved with them for 2 years. That the nuns essentially just dropped all their plans, kind of. And so my only point is, I don't believe that they're going to conserve that land long term, which I think is okay. I think that if you took out that corner over there and still had the woods kind of shield behind you, I've never been over there, but they talk about some walking paths. Then you have walking paths over there for your residents too. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Well, hopefully for the whole community. Yeah.
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 We don't have
Yeah.
sidewalks in Pepper Pike,
Right.
so
Right,
so
right.
honestly, I don't think many people walk there. I would venture to
Oh,
say
no?
very,
Really?
very few. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so surprised because I would assume that
It's
would
beautiful.
be a great walking area.
It's beautiful. I'm sure I've driven by there a million times, but I've never parked. There's security on the campus, the all girls
Oh,
campus,
okay.
and
Right.
and the
Right.
what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody wants
Understood.
to. I'm not saying that it's
Feel
not used.
uncomfortable. Right. Right.
It's not. I'm not saying that it's not used, but if you went there, you're not going to see crowds. You're not going to see crowds. You'd be lucky to see one other person. You know?
Well.
So I think that.
Huh. I assumed that the community kind of, took advantage of the open area and kind of
not really.
went back there and
No,
walked and things.
not really.
Well,
You
I
can't
would
even
hope
walk
that
over
when we
there.
come in, I hope when we come in that the community will do that because again, we want to very much be a part of the community and
Understood.
So-
So if it was up
I-
to me,
I-
that's what I would recommend, taking out that kind of southeast.
well, I
fringe
don't have a
area.
lot of control here, right? I
Well-
don't have any control here, but I can certainly have a discussion. And again, I'll have a frank discussion, and I will relay everything that you said. And
I just don't want you to be surprised at pushback on next Monday, because I think that there will be pushback.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, my job is not an easy job, and so I appreciate the heads up.
Well, I appreciate
And
that you took the time to
I
take
look
my
forward
call.
to in the future. I appreciate in the future meeting you in person, and I hope that I hope that somehow we can work this out and that we can be a part of the community
Understood.
and be neighbors someday.
Okay, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely, and
Okay.
thank you for calling.
Okay, take care.
And have a good day.
Bye.
Bye bye.